long as you're living, always remember, folks who are lazy are being crazy.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with LA-based jazz vocalist, composer, arranger, and musician Mon David. We caught up with him about his new 2025 CD, DNA Continuum, along with the stellar life in the jazz world. This album is a follow-up to his 2020 release, DNA, a duo project which featured David and pianist Josh Nelson. This new project expands on the concept by adding guitarist Larry Koonse into the mix. Born and raised in the Philippines, he is a polyglot with 3 languages under his belt. He left a lucrative music career in his homeland of the Philippines to pursue his passion for jazz in LA. His deep passion for the music is echoed in his ardent and highly personal interpretation of the songs. He's got a fascinating story. Enjoy this interview.
It's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Great to meet you too.
Yeah, great to meet you.
For having me.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get into DNA Continuum, I want to begin with, 5 years ago, this pandemic was throwing us all into the unknown. And hopefully now we've come out of it stronger and wiser and better. So ultimately, how did you make it through that time period, and how has it influenced the way that you create and do work now?
Well, as probably as just like most writers, composers, and musicians, it may sound strange, but we can be a bit grateful for that, the quiet moments that that period allowed us to really enjoy time and spaces to create and review and write and rearrange materials. And so during that period, I made sure I was productive in terms of creating new stuff. And so that gave me a chance to focus on the newly released DNA, which I recorded with Josh Nelson, a duo project. And then I also was able to focus on recording a new compilation based on some poems written in my native tongue. So I can say that it was in that area, from that end, it was productive. Of course, that's not to say that we all really felt bad about what happened to some of our friends, some relatives who weren't able to survive that sad, tragic period. But from the point of view of musicians and artists, I think a lot was created. A lot of new ideas came out. Of course, the sad thing about it is that we had to, stop from doing those gigs, semi-regular gigs and regular gigs. And now I'm just, we're all so happy that it's starting to come back, those little performances that we miss a lot. Performing live, there's nothing like performing live. And I think most musicians would agree with that. That side of just creating and writing and enjoying your quiet moments is so much different from finally being able to perform them live, right? And having warm bodies right in front of you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about DNA Continuum. Talk to me a little bit about how this project came around and how the players that are on this project.
I've always envisioned DNA, the original duo project, only with Josh Nelson, as something that can expand eventually. And so I thought of using that concept, the continuum, which basically expresses that the continuity of appreciating and creating new grooves and new sounds. So we decided, Josh and I decided to invite Larry Koonse to join in, and we were also happy working in the studio with him. So he got to perform in 4 tracks, 4 songs, namely for the Miles Davis classic, for A Time for Love by Johnny Mandel, Blowing in the Wind, the Bob Dylan classic, and also the Oscar Brown classic, Oscar Brown Jr. classic, Long as You're Living. So, and that idea in my mind, in my consciousness continues. I was mentioning to them that eventually I'd like to do, to use live strings or perhaps a full orchestra or a horn section to, to keep the music flowing and to be able to explore new ideas and new sounds. When DNA came up in my consciousness, I was really particular with the space, the sense of space that Josh and I would enjoy doing, performing together. And then at times I would hear some instruments joining in, and so that explains Larry Koonse participation, which is amazing. Those two guys are just amazing with their intuitive and creative natures.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, at the end of the day, what are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from this project?
Well, there will always be that idea, the message that I hope I'm able to share with them. Some positive messages, which is essentially about life being a continuum. And I would always share that idea with friends, that life for me at this point in my career, in this phase in my life, I would look at it as being a continuum. Life is a continuum, which is I've always thought best lived with the equilibrium, that sense of balance, and I always try to inject that in terms of musical ideas, the rhythmic aspect, the melodic aspect, the harmony, which are very basic, right? Those three basic things in music. And I'd like to be able to apply that or to approach it using my experiences as a human, not only as an artist, as a human, as a musician. And so that's my basis when I choose materials to sing. I keep sharing this idea with friends that we all borrow from each other. We keep borrowing these ideas. We keep being inspired and influenced by our colleagues, by our brothers and sisters in this artistic world, and that never stops. It will never stop. I keep sharing with them, with our friends, that I may be getting old, but that the passion and the love for it keeps getting younger and younger, welcoming new ideas and new songs, old songs that perhaps can be presented in new ways. And there are many ways, we all know that, to approach that idea, to present them or represent them again, and maybe rediscover stuff that songs that have been that continue to shape my thinking and shape my values. And it may sound corny, but Blowing in the Wind. Who hasn't heard Blowing in the Wind, right? Bob Dylan's classic. But I've always believed that those questions, those ideas, they remain timeless, and up to now they're applicable. Up to now they're appreciated, and it's so funny that you've heard and known a piece, a classic, for decades, and then all of a sudden it hits you again in the heart, and makes the message even clearer for you. And I hope I'm able to translate that, or maybe transmit or share that with listeners, using a little bit of some of these details that we might consider jazzy in nature, if I may use that word, or improvisational in nature. I always try to inject that the improvisational aspect, the being in the moment in the studio, while retaining the general or basic message of the song. And that's true with Johnny Mandel's "A Time for Love." It's so much. It's so true with "Long as You're Living" by Oscar Brown Jr. So so that's it. Aside from the natural high that all performers would experience in doing live shows, performing these materials live before a live audience. Of course, it's they become timeless when they are recorded, and there's opportunity for listeners to appreciate them at some points in their lives.
So take me back to the beginnings. How did music become a part of your world, more specifically jazz?
The jazz aspect of it came hit me in a gradual way. I started doing pop music, Broadway musicals. I started in my earlier years. I was a session drummer for many established pop stars, and then that was my. I got to experience different types of music, types of songs, from Motown to Chicago to folk to, and then while I was immersed in those in that world, I slowly, gradually discovered the improvisational aspect of it all. It was vicarious in the sense that I was enjoying the frontliners, the established pop stars, while I was in my drum kit. At the same time, I was envisioning, visualizing myself to be up out there in front too, presenting a repertoire that's personal and my personal choices, and then I discovered the greats, the crooners from Nat Cole to Sinatra to Tony Bennett to the greats, and then I I uh, I continued listening to people like Mark Murphy, Bobby McFerrin, and Al Jarreau, and all the great instrumentalists, Keith Jarrett, Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, and I I I never lost that intensity to learn and listen and adapt and approach the whole thing using those influences and those inspirations. So that was my beginnings, and of course there's also the classical foundation, and I I trained and learned how to project, learn how to use the classical methods, ways of projecting voice. I even had to learn the German pieces and Italian pieces, and of course the standards, the jazz standards, will always be there. Up
So
to
what
now,
was
it's ongoing. It continues. I feel like I'm a young student learning all these things.
so for sure, yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what was the first live show that you saw that blew you away, that made you think that you want to get on stage one day and do it yourself?
You know what? It wasn't a live. It was a cassette recording shared with me by a friend in Manila, in the Philippines, a band member. And then he told me, "Hey, Mon, have you heard of Mark Murphy?" No, Mark Murphy, no. Well, I'm gifting you with this. I'd like you to have this gift. It's a recorded live performance of Mark Murphy, and it was in a cassette. Cassette. Yeah, and I was blown away when I heard his the way he approached his whole repertoire, and I felt instantly that, my God, he's not he's doing new things. He's doing phrasings and rhythmic passages that are not unbelievable. And it was so clear to me that it was all improvisational. And then I kept researching. I expanded my knowledge about his repertoire, and then I discovered those pieces, milestones that he would just sometimes recite words and create rhythms, and I'm a drummer, so I appreciate those kinds of rhythms, the improvisational aspects of metric modulations, and not just the regular 4/4 thing. So that started my, that kind of passion to listen to these great vocalists who continue to inspire me up to now.
So who were inspirations? Who were people that you kind of emulated and learned from that kind of lent to your voice?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Mark Murphy would be part of that list. Mark Murphy, Bobby McFerrin, of course, the crooners, Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, and in recent years, Kurt Elling, Gregory Porter, Nat Cole, Al Jarreau, and I would. And that's the reason why I'm quite particular with the sense of balance, the the equilibrium aspect of it all. I'm quite particular with the grooves, the rhythms, and the melodies and the harmony behind it. It sometimes I would challenge myself to listen and enjoy complicated arrangements, but there are times when I feel very folksy about my approach, and all I need is just a few simple chords and an honest rendition, a heartfelt rendition of a melody or lyrics. So you can say that I'm uh, I'm all of these things, trying to, but I continue searching, always searching for new materials to excite me.
So talk to me a little bit about what you look forward to every day. What is the greatest part about being a professional musician for you?
I think one of the greatest part is to to inspire people to feel more deeply about things that we all value in life. It may sound a bit philosophical, but I think I consider music as the greatest art form that can inspire and move people and touch people. And jazz happens to be a very strong, probably the strongest genres or styles. But I keep, this may sound crazy, but I keep telling some of our friends that at some point, jazz is not enough as a description for the kind of feeling that we all aspire for, that we're all searching, right? That kind of fulfillment. It's a combination of all these things: the classics, the classical, the pop, folk, and the different styles of jazz. So if I'm able to inspire just a few, even just a few people to listen and really feel music and make it part of their lifelong values, then I feel I'll be fulfilled in some ways, in many ways, doing that. And I think live performance, there's nothing can replace it. The fulfillment in recording materials and writing and composing and rearranging stuff can be really fulfilling, but I think there's nothing that can be more fulfilling than a live performance. And I'll never forget those nights when I had those unforgettable moments. I was performing for an old lady who requested me to do a set only for her. It was a one-on-one thing. She passed away already, but I'll never forget that feeling, that face, the glow on her face when I was singing for her. It was just her and me in her sala. So I brought her, and I I'll never forget that feeling that wow, that happened. I I forgot that I was never even aware that I was able to sing 15 to 16 in front of her. And at some point she's teary eyed, she was crying, but smiling at the same time. You know, that saudade kind of feeling that we all experience when joy and sadness merge, and and it's something that cannot be described with words. It's just pure joy. And
Absolutely.
sometimes that can be, yeah, sometimes it's translated into something uh, 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 what you call this, a configuration that's bigger, maybe a trio or quartet or big band. But I think the feeling is the same, you know, even in orchestral settings, we would experience that, right? And for me, that's a huge basis. The moment I start crying inside or externally, or laughing because of the thing that I'm hearing at the moment, for me that's a beautiful and strong sign that I'm connecting and we're connected. I'm connected with the audience. So,
That's a
and
great answer. Yeah. So, the one thing that's very key about growing as a musician is getting around veterans, legends, luminaries, people that have been around for a while that do it really well. What have you learned over the years from the veterans and legends that you in turn have passed down to younger musicians?
ah, a lot. I'm I continue learning from them by just listening, and sometimes by uh, through their interviews, through their some podcasts, and but mainly by listening to their works and attending. I would go out of my way to see and perform them. Sometimes I don't even get to talk to them, and it's not. Sometimes it's enough, right? It's enough to be in the same room with them, just to experience them live, making live music, connecting with them, then them connecting to you, uh, and you learn about uh, the biggest for me the biggest feeling, the biggest word is you learn about humility. they're all they all have that great beautiful quality in their hearts, and up to now I keep rediscovering that they're all blessed with this gift of humility, and they would always honor that by giving their heart, sharing their hearts when they're performing. It may be just a few notes, just one note, but you feel that it's so easy to to connect and and take that home with you. And sometimes it's all it takes is a phrase or a word or a particular combination of notes, and then you start, when you yourself would experience that as a performer, you start dreaming of those things, wishing that, oh, I wish everybody could feel this. I wish everyone can experience this. So they become, at least for just a few moments, oblivious, oblivious of the madness going on around us. I wish they discover this beautiful medicine. All it takes is to listen and be part of it and be present while it's happening. And you don't need other stuff to make your life peaceful and to achieve that kind of beautiful peace of mind. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope I'm making sense, man.
You are. You totally are. So, at the end of the day, everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, everyone that you know that you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Uh, I I I feel I'm a member of a huge community who wants to who who aspires be able to contribute something good, something that can make people feel good and feel and experience hope through the songs that I sing, through the music that I interpret, through the compositions or renditions that interpretations that through songs that I borrow from colleagues, from the greats. I feel I'm just a channel. I'm just a vessel for these things to be achieved. I'm way past that aspect of the commercial way of approaching things. I've transcended that. I value quiet moments to discover and rediscover materials, songs that continue to shape me as a human, as a musician, as a family member, as maybe a citizen of the world, to be worthy of this gift that I'm enjoying, I'm embracing, and I'm still learning in many ways. When I say learning, I down to the most basic stuff, basic things that many decades ago I thought I knew already, and now I'm beginning to what, and then I'm beginning to reassess and reevaluate things that I've recorded before, and I keep telling myself, what? Why did I do that? How did that happen? Things that you aspire to. You're always aspiring to perfect, and then you realize that there's no such thing as perfect, right? You can only continue with the struggle to expand and learn from colleagues, learn by listening, and feeling and valuing.
Right.
I'm quite excited to go back to a solo gig after having done it. My last was 3 years ago, and I'm excited about that because I know I'll be able to share a few things, a few stuff that I missed doing. There's a lot of fulfillment, a different kind of fulfillment, playing or singing with other colleagues, with other musicians, whether it's a duo or trio or quartet. But there's also that kind of fulfillment that can never be. It's hard to describe, but just so joyful and fulfilling to be on your own and be your own timekeeper and be your own bass player in your mind, with just the guitar accompanying yourself, and working on those meters and rhythms while expressing your thoughts through words, very well written by great writers, and every now and then I would inject a few of my originals, and that's the thing that I'm looking forward at the moment. But of course, I also have some scheduled performances with Josh in Temecula, in this beautiful venue, the Merc, which is it's a small venue, but a beautiful listening space, which can only seat about maximum 50 people. But they have this beautiful Steinway there, and those are the things that excite Josh and me. A beautiful listening space with a beautiful piano and sounds. And I'm also excited about the forthcoming festival, like a summit, which will be happening come June at Catalina Jazz Club here in Los Angeles. It will be the first Tokyo, Manila, LA jazz festival or summit, and it will involve a lot of musicians from the area, from LA and from Tokyo and possibly from Manila too. And Josh and Tamir will be there. Tamir Handelman and Josh Nelson will be there to join us.
Excellent. Well, I will be sure to put links to the album and everything pertaining to your world. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning into another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players, singers, and minds in the Philippines, LA, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Mon for his time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
It helps me get away from strife. I hope you listen carefully. They say the truth will set you free, and that's the way you wanna be. And brother, this is your life.
Neon Jazz.
Hello, friends. Joe Domino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Domino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedomino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.